See?
Here we go. Are we going? Are we going? Are we going?
We're going.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, you get to start.
Welcome to Wholehearted Living with Valerie
and Benny.
We are the podcast where the siblings come together and we discuss topics about...
Did you say discuss?
I kind of did.
I was going to even say, you did such a great job. This is one of our best starts. And then you said discuss.
I was so proud of myself. Edit it, Iggy.
No, you got to keep that in.
It would have been fine if you let it go.
I know, but I couldn't let it go.
He never lets anything go.
No.
But anyway, it is a podcast where we discuss topics around the whole interest of wholehearted living.
Yep.
And one of us brings a topic that the other person doesn't know about, and we kind of just chat and discuss.
There it is.
Yeah.
Igsters, thank you.
Hello.
Igsters keeps us in sound. That's the engineering term for people who don't know what they're doing.
It's so funny because I said, did I say, what do I call you sometimes? Iggy Meister.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, they go, why do you, I always say Iggy Meister. No, you don't. And I'm like, yes, I do.
Who said that?
I can't remember if it was Nicole or somebody I was telling, or maybe it was even Ashley. I don't remember, but they were like, no, you don't. I go, yes, I do. And then I go, I see him every other Friday for the podcast. And they're like, oh, that's right. I forgot you know him. Like,
oh, that is funny. Because in their minds, they're thinking you see him at
only at the
family
get-togethers
events.
that they see him at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So that was funny.
Okay, we were talking about the gym. So I'm going to tell you about my gym experiences because I do think it's funny when people look at me when I'm at the gym sometimes because I usually work out here, right? Mm-hmm. And so CrossFit, for those of you people that know CrossFit, and I guess I do CrossFit workouts still, but I'm not going to an actual gym. But I do swim at 24 Hour Fitness. And what's funny is every once in a while I decide to do a workout there because either the pool is full or maybe I just want to do something that's a little bit more physical nature. Mm-hmm. Not that swimming actually can be really hard.
Well,
but
also too, you said sometimes it's too early in the morning to do it in your garage.
Yes, and I've done that too, where I actually want to do a workout, but I can't do it downstairs.
Yeah.
For noise. And so I end up over there, but I always think that because of the culture of seeing people the way they work out, because they will do, if I go to a rack and let's just say they're doing back squats and they do 4 reps, they rack it, and then I don't know what they do for a very long period of time. I guess they're waiting for their muscles to completely be back to what they were before. Right. And then they get up and they might increase their weights and then they do it again.
Right.
And I'm just always laughing because we just didn't have that kind of time. And now I just want to be done. I'm not there to I don't know what, I just want to be done. I just want to do my workout.
Yeah.
So I'll sit there at the rack and I'll do 10 squats, and then I go and grab a bumper and I put it over my head and I do 20 lunges with it, like my arms
overhead,
straight, overhead lunge, and then I grab 2 kettlebells and I just walk up and down.
Yeah,
and I walk too heavy. And then I go back, and then I go back, and then I do. I increase the weights and I do 8. Yeah, and then I'm at 250 and I'm still doing 2, and then I still go and do my thing and I'm going, and they must be looking at me like, what the hell is, because it's like but I'm thinking, I don't know what you're doing. Right. I don't understand the value.
I think that there's a difference between like doing a WOD, like a Metcon, and then people that do just straight strength training. But at the same time, they give their bodies so much rest that it's like it's I don't know how to word it. Like,
well,
one of the coaches explained to me one time, because I said, oh, in my program, because he was chatting with me while I was doing something, there's a 90-second rest in between each set. Right. And I said, I really try to stick to it because I don't want to wait, 3 minutes, but at the same time, I don't want to wait, just 30 seconds. And he goes, really, you should go by your heart rate. You want your heart in a certain zone. Ah. And so it made a lot of sense because sometimes I'm not pushing myself enough with that first set that my heart's ready to go into the second set. Ah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah. And it was
that's Orange Theory. Do you know what Orange Theory is?
Yeah, I've heard of Orange Theory. Yeah.
Well, but Orange Theory is they actually put a heart thingy on you, and then they'd have you, everybody's doing the same thing. It's not CrossFit, but everybody's doing the same thing. It's very cardio intensive.
Yeah.
And they want you in in
a zone,
the orange zone,
right,
which is why they call it the orange theory. So
right.
what the guy told me that was fun, because Patty, or what's my daughter's name? Ashley. She invited me to go. And what was funny is that I think I got in the orange zone one time briefly, and she was in it quite a bit, but but when he looked at my numbers, he goes, your numbers are actually pretty good, especially for your age. And I never done it before. And he goes, your numbers are pretty good. And he goes, you actually have a really good heart, because you should be in the orange, but you're not. And so it's like, you should be.
Well, and that's so funny you said that, because that's exactly what I told this coach. I said, because he said, you really want to stay in that zone. And so if you need only 30 seconds to get back into your second step, do 30 seconds.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you've really pushed yourself and you're seeing your heart rate at a certain place and it's still staying up there, then yeah, take the full 90 seconds, But he was just saying, basically, you want to pay more attention to that, not necessarily just what the clock says.
Yeah.
And so that made sense. But what I did tell him was, I have a very, very low resting heart rate. And so it takes a while to get into a zone. And the reason I have a low resting heart rate, and it was so funny when I would go, because I don't know, I have that like murmur thing. I have a heart thing. And so whenever I would go get it checked out, every time I would change insurances and end up at Kaiser, or then go to a personal doctor, depending on what my insurance was throughout my whole life, they would go, Are you okay? Are you an athlete?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I run. At that time when I first started monitoring my heart, I was a runner. And while I run, they go, oh, okay, because you have a very low resting heart rate, So, and it's always carried on, because I've never stopped. When I stopped running, I was doing CrossFit, and then I got into the, So, but no, to your point, it is very funny to look around the gym and just go, oh my gosh, they're taking a 40-minute rest. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
And now they're going to rest. And now they're going to push again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and what's funny for me is, and by the way, there is you do need your muscles to recover a little bit, so that, especially if you're doing actual strength training where you're actually trying to build mass or really get a PR in 2 weeks, then you need to do certain things. But most of these people that I'm looking at, that's not what they're trying to do. They're just like getting a workout.
Yeah, you can tell the people that
you can tell the ones that are truly working a plan, and you could tell not only by their physique, and they've been doing this for a while, but you could tell that they have a plan. You could just tell. And then you can tell the other people that it's like, I'm just here because I got to go, I was told I should go to the gym, I'm just like, just move. If you just continue to move, you'd be better. You would just feel good. And you wouldn't have to be here for 2 hours.
Yeah. Go walk on the treadmill and keep your body moving for a while.
Exactly.
But to what we talked about before we even started this podcast, you know what? They're there. They're doing something.
So that's why I never judge them. What I think, what I wonder is if they're judging me, because they're like, what's this guy doing? He just doesn't.
Peter does the same thing though. He'll go out. He'll go to the platform and do a couple lifts, and then he'll move himself over to what's called the red room in the gym at USC, and he'll grab his kettlebells, he'll grab his jump rope, he'll do something else, he'll push the sled or whatever, and he does like a circuit thing, He'll do 150 double unders, and he'll go do the kettlebell carries, and then he'll push the sled or whatever, or then he'll tire flip up and down the aisle, and it's like he'll do 5 rounds of it, and I'm sure people are like,
why doesn't he stop? Yeah, exactly. And then so I try to do, just like in CrossFit, I try to do a little bit of weight stuff, heavy stuff at one point, at least twice a week, 3 times a week. Other times I'm doing like techniques, like I'm doing cleans and jerks or something like that. And then I do some kind of WOD, just like what you said Peter does. And those things could be anywhere from 15 minutes to 45. Honestly, it depends on what it is. But I just, when I'm at the gym, especially because it's not like, at least maybe if I went at the same time every week and you start to get to know people, it would be more like a social thing to be there. But, and then a lot of the people I'm talking about, they go with another person and they're talking and they're whatever, and they're chewing the fat. So maybe that's great, but I just can't, because literally sometimes I'll share a rack with somebody and because I get there and there's no rack. And so I'll just say, do you mind if I use it? And depending on how much weight they have, that's what I decide what I'm going to do. So if they have 200 pounds on it, okay, I'm gonna go for a front squat or something like that, or back squats. if they have 95, then I'm going to do jerks, or I'm going to do like just overhead squats, or something, because it's lighter. And so I'm going to do whatever they have. And it's funny because I could do 2 or 3 rounds while they're in between their one.
Right.
It's like because I just keep moving. I just don't wait.
It's funny you said that about friends. Oh, let me just say this real quick. I was listening to a podcast one day, and they were talking about she's a fitness trainer and stuff.
Wait, you listen to other podcasts besides our own?
Yes.
Iggy.
I do.
What is she doing? Just kidding.
No, but he was saying, or she was saying how she said it's also and you know what? And it's funny because I listened to this like 3 weeks ago and I haven't done it yet. She said it's important to start with your weaker side. Like, for example, I have I do the Bulgarian split squat.
Oh yeah.
And I will always start with my stronger side, and just always, that's just where my body automatically goes. But she was saying it's kind of important to start on your weaker side. And then it's equally as important when you rest between sets to give your muscles like a little bit of time to, get back right into the next set. It's equally important to rest between the legs, not necessarily as long as you need to do between a sweat or a set, but you are using the other leg in that movement. So give that leg a little bit of rest before you go into the movement, because now it's taxed from what you just did. So I thought that was interesting, because I've always immediately like, okay, this is my set. I got to do, 10 on my left side, then 10 on my right. I go into it right away.
Right.
I never thought, oh, I need to get a 30-second rest.
Are you doing it with weight?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always do my weak side, but mine's more practical. I do it because I'm tired. And so my weak side, it's harder. So if I do my weak side second, I'm more likely to not finish. I have to rest, and then I have to go again. Whereas depending on what I'm doing, if I'm doing it for bulk again, then I might not finish all of them on either side. Right. Because like if I'm racking 135 pounds and doing Bulgarian split squats and I want to do 8, I'm probably not going to get through 8.
Sure.
Not on each side. Sure. It's just not going to happen. But I'll keep going and going and going until I get to the 8 done, and then I'll rest, and then I'll do the other side. But if it's in like a WOD in a Metcon, then it's a much lighter weight. It's a lighter weight or a lighter thing, which half the time you don't do Bulgarian. But you would but if I'm doing something where I'm thinking I just want to get through it, then but either way, I always start with my weaker side, because otherwise my other side's so tired. I mean, I'm tired. Sure. I'm like I'm already, and so then
But you do take a rest in between the legs, like the sides?
Not in a Metcon, but in a
if you're doing just leg strength.
If I'm just doing leg strength, okay. I'll rest.
I never thought to do that. I would go right into it, because I just, in my mind, that was the whole workout, And when she said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes more sense. So I do that. I do take that little bit of a break and then get into the next leg. But I haven't started my weak side.
But But I will say this: I don't take the same amount of rest that I would take for the next round.
No, that's yes, exactly. So she said you don't necessarily need. That's exactly what she said. You don't want to take the whole rest that you would for the next round. You want to just take it just to give your leg a minute to
just a second to no, because especially with legs, I don't know how it is with you, but I have to be really careful depending on my weight, because I'll the weight that I'm doing, because I'll get lightheaded. So you could see a lot of videos of people eating it, man, when they're doing back funny stuff. They are kind of funny. They are kind of funny. Some of the women though, man, women need to put their hair up. Oh my gosh. Have you seen these?
Yes.
Have you seen these, Iggy?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, these women where they get stuck in their hair and they get yanked down. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. I know. So well, that's really funny that we're laughing at women getting their heads torn off. You ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay. So this is interesting. I had no intention of talking about that beforehand. We only just randomly started talking, but it has to do with my subject today. Oh. So, it doesn't totally have to do with it. Man, disregard everything I said.
Talk about the rest in between each side.
Yeah, exactly. No. The earlier conversation. Sorry. So this is... I'm going to ask you a very provocative question. You're probably going to go a totally different direction than I want you to, but I'm going to just ask you.
Provocative, though.
What's the point of church?
What's the point? I mean, the first thing that came to mind was just community.
Hey, you went right on what I was going to say. I'm so glad, because I thought you were going to say, well, Jesus is a
Oh my goodness. No.
So I was like, which I don't have a problem with that for everybody out there is going, wow,
Right,
he's horrible. No, but I just love that you said that. I love that you said that, because that's exactly what I was
There's nothing
thinking.
wrong with the audio. That was
me speaking. Iggy's going to fix it. I'm so glad you said it. So tell me why you say that, though. I mean, where does that come from?
It came from my mouth.
Gosh, I almost did a Michael Scott joke again.
Oh my God, I know. So, okay. No, I mean, why I say it. Okay, well, let me just give you a little backstory. For years and years and years, I haven't gone to church, even though I am a faith. I have, my faith is Christianity. I believe in God. I believe Jesus is the Son of God. And that's how I've lived my life for the last 30 years, because I was going to church prior to that. But then I didn't. But I still have my faith. I still prayed every day. I still,
Yeah.
But now, almost a year now, I think. I don't know. When did we start going to church? Has it been a year? But anyway, started going to church. The only thing that's changed, I shouldn't say the only thing, because I do get fed a lot, like listening to the pastor's message and stuff, and I really do like him. But the only thing that has really differed in the way I actually feel is having the friendships that I made there, the community that all feel the same way, and the way we can worship together. And then, so, I mean, yeah, that's why I said that.
So it's interesting, because this is the subject today, is community. Mm-hmm. It's not church. Mm-hmm. Although church is certainly a place you can find it, or I hope you can find it, you listener. But the whole point of my conversation today was in terms of wholehearted living, and how we are just meant to live with others. Mm-hmm. We're meant to live in community. And we have danced around this in different podcasts, but I don't know that we've actually, we've never directly just talked about needing community.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we've really addressed it directly. And I was just thinking about the fact that with the clients that I have, there are people that struggle with community. They struggle. And then I've also
struggled with not having community.
Not having community.
Oh, okay.
They don't have community, or, because I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but have you ever felt alone when you're with a group of people?
Yeah. That's lonely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it also has to do with not like feeling like you don't belong, right? It's not your group of people, that whatever it is. And unfortunately that can happen in church. That can happen in certain churches for sure. It can happen in a school setting. It can happen at work. It can happen in your neighborhood where you don't fit in, or you don't feel like you fit in, for sure. And you can feel like you don't belong, right? And so I don't know. So let's talk about your church, because you just said that it gives you community. How is the community? I guess, how would you compare your life prior to that community and how you would compare yourself now? Like, would you say you're living more wholeheartedly, or what has the church done? Because you said, I think it's for community. So then I'm assuming you lack that community at some level.
I feel like I'm actually an introvert. So when I am in community, whether it's with work or with family or whatever, I do need that, like, to get back to myself. I do need downtime. I need my own time. But
so wait, for the listener, I want to define introvert, because most people define introvert as being like the way they're shy. An introvert and extrovert, at least by the definition that I think you're going by, is extroverts get energy being with people. Introverts get energy being alone.
Absolutely.
Extroverts like to be alone. They just have to spend time with people in order to do that. And introverts likewise like being with people. They just need to have downtime if they're with people alone.
That is exactly it. That's how I feel drained after a gathering, if you will. Whereas someone like Peter, who's an extrovert, he's more amped. Like, what are we going to do? And it's like, we're going home,
Yeah.
So we are totally different in that way. However, when I do say that I'm an introvert, it shocks a lot of people because definitely very, you know, outgoing, if you will. Like I could be the life of the party. You know what I mean? I'm like, I could dance on a table and a crowd. You know what I mean?
You can sing. I touch myself at a bar.
Right. But I need where I energize, where
Which,
I get
by
back
the way,
my
is
energy.
a very awkward thing for your brother and your kids.
Son. Yeah. No, my daughter was having fun. Not Kylie. Nicole was. But anyway, no. So yeah, you're right. So that being said, when I started going to church, mine's a different thing. I wish that I could say this differently, but the reality is I didn't go to church for all those years because Peter wasn't a Christian and did not want to go to church, whether or not he was a Christian. He just did not ever want to go to church. And instead of me going to church by myself, which I could have done, I chose not to. I chose to spend Sunday mornings with him and the kids and all that kind of stuff. So when he decided he wanted to start going to church, my situation is different if you were asking me just from a different standpoint, because I'm excited to go to church with him. I'm excited to see how he sees this as a new thing where it's very familiar. It came back quickly from my church going days, you know? Right. So watching it through his eyes is kind of exciting. And because he is an extrovert, he has made so many friends. You know, he walks around before we leave. I need to go say hi to so-and-so. I need to go say goodbye. You know, and me, I'm different. I'm like, oh, I just got my fill.
I'm going to the car.
I'm going to meet you in the parking lot. You know what I mean? So, but that said, I feel because I'm back in church, the community there, it feels good. Sometimes I just sit around and look and watch people that we connect eye to eye, even if I've never said 2 words to them before, or connect with the people that I'm actually in a community group with, and go, oh, hi, you know, and we're all singing a song together, or we all sit down and we, you know, listen to the pastor. There's something about a connection. Yeah. And I like that.
A common goal. I don't know if the goal is the right word, but like you said, singing together, whatever, listening to the same message, getting this, you know, being able to talk about it later with people. It's all the same thing. Quite frankly, people often get that from going to a concert. What I mean by that is because there's something very communal.
Oh, for sure.
You could go to a football game and they all start cheering the same cheer and you feel those goosebumps. 100%. It's like, you're like, wow, this is really cool. Now that's not the same community typically, because you don't make friends with everybody in the stadium, but you feel that energy. 100%. And it's a really powerful thing. But likewise, and then there's a whole component about just learning. And so, but that's not the focus of this particular podcast. I'm not saying, because this is not about church per se. Sure. This is about having a community of people. And I think it's what is interesting to me is, I think so many people live alone and with their friends, like they have there's nothing wrong. I don't know if this is still true, but I remember reading something once where they said most people only have about 7 to 9 friends. And what I mean by that is 7 to 9 people that I can actually talk about anything with, like where I can really tell them what's going on with me. And for a lot of people, it's even less than that. There's very few people. I don't care how extroverted. I don't care how much you're involved with people on a regular basis. Most people only have about a handful of people that they can really talk about anything. Yeah. And so the point is that's safe. But most people on top of that have dozens of people that they could go out to dinner with or whatever. And here's the thing: if you don't have, first of all, you're 7. And then if you don't have anybody beyond that, now, it's very possible that you're going to feel very alone and stuck. And I find that addiction often takes place with people who don't have people because they end up sharing or not being able to share their innermost thoughts with people. Me as a therapist nowadays, it's amazing how many people pay just to talk. Yeah. Because and I can't tell you how many people I'll ask them after their first session. So like the second session, I'll say, how do you feel? I can't tell you how many people will just say to me, because they don't even care what I said.
Yeah.
But what they'll say is, you know what? It was just really nice to get a lot of stuff off my chest.
You could just have them call me. I won't charge them.
Yeah.
But you know, what you're saying is it's very interesting. We have a girl in our community group from our church, and I really feel sorry for her because there's a lot of times that she will break down in tears and say, I think I had mentioned going to Big Bear and not knowing what to do with the dog, and I'll babysit the dog, and she's Maggie's a spaz, but anyway, all that to say, she goes, I just need something to do. I'm always just so alone. I have no one. I haven't, and she has said it a few times at our group session or whatever you want to call it, get-togethers, and I feel so sad for her because she does live alone. She's kind of retired, and I just feel sad for her because, she thrives on going to these community groups. Whereas, me, sometimes I'm just like, oh, we have community group tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I always love when I get there. I'm just saying, like, sometimes it's just a thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing as the gym. It's the same thing as so many things. It's like, oh, do I really want to get up? And then you feel good when
it's just very interesting because, it just, when I said something about, what did I say I was going to do one day? I said, oh, I'll drive up and blah, blah, blah for someone. And she goes, pick me up. I'll go with you, and she's just she's like that person. And it's like, for me, I would thrive on that alone time, driving from here to theirs. Because I'm always around somebody, it seems, or with the school and all the kids. It's like, I need that quiet time. But, I feel bad for her. So I'm like, okay, if I go, I'll get you, so she could have 30 minutes of drive time with someone, Kelly, if I'm not mistaken, I think I mentioned this before, she volunteers to take older people on errands or something, or to a doctor's appointment. And she says the same thing. If I remember correctly, she said that, sometimes it's just they want someone to talk to.
Yeah, for sure. And it's amazing, the senior citizens. It's so funny because mom and dad still, I don't know if they still do. What's really funny is mom and dad still serve at senior citizen centers, and they said that they're actually older than some of the people that live there now. And so, but they've been doing that since they were in their 40s.
Well, and they're healthy and they're fine to do that, and that's great that they.
Yeah, he goes, it's really. Dad told me one time, he goes, yeah, we go over there and we do all these things, and I do my jokes and I do my thing, and then he goes, but then it's so funny to see a lot of these people and they're 6-7 years younger than us.
That's very funny.
But so it's interesting that you're saying this, because all I'm getting at is when we talk about wholehearted living, it could very easily just and I would say we often just focus on you, the listener, and as an individual, and say this is the focus, is okay, do this, flip the switch, da da da. We have all these little things which are all true. But you might think, oh, you don't need other people. Mm-hmm. And I would honestly say, if you're going to be wholeheartedly living, you need people. You're not intended. We are not created to live alone.
You need community.
You absolutely need community. And so I brought up the church thing because it's a place where, I want to be careful how I say this because it depends on, I guess, who you are and your beliefs and so on. But church is certainly a place where it could be safe for you to go and be. And I'm going to tell you, go to one. If you don't feel safe, immediately leave and go to another. Sure. Don't assume that all churches are bad and hate you. So just go find a different. Well, I'm just saying, I remember once we had a friend who we were in Ecuador. It took her a while to get connected to church. Mm-hmm. She ended up moving cities, and I said, are you going to try and find a church? And she didn't want to. She ended up finally going to a church, and the very first, she goes in the very first time. And we had our church very intentionally, we had a saying said, ven como tú eres, which means come as you are. Mm-hmm. And so that was our whole thing, because a lot of churches in the area were not ven como tú eres. Mm-hmm. They were ven y cambia mucho para que puedas venir. Come and change a whole bunch so that you could fit in with us, kind of a thing. And we just had a very different mindset. Mm-hmm. She ended up going to another church, and the pastor preached on not wearing jeans to church, which is what she was the only person in the entire church wearing jeans. So that's not a safe church, right, for that person.
Wow.
So
he'd be mad at our church.
Yeah. And so, but that's my point, is that there are churches who might have a very different upbringing, belief system and so on, and then it would be easy to say, well, all of them are like that, and it's just not true.
Right.
And so find something that fits you and who.
But that is a good place to go, even if you aren't. It's a good place for community, because even if you aren't maybe necessarily believe in God, I hesitate to say that, but you can meet people, you can you can find community, you can find social, like they don't just have a Sunday morning service. There's a lot of churches often have different kind of socials that you can get yourself involved with. But especially if you do believe in God, and that's just.
Well, and I like what you said also about Kelly about volunteering. You could also volunteer in places. Yes. You could. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things our mom told us, or told me, I don't know if she told you this, but she said, I found it the best way for me to get to know people is when I served with them. So she says some of the people that she still hangs around, she said, where I really got to know them is when we served in with the choir when we were in high school, or when we served in we used to take trips to Mexico or do these other things. And she said, that's where I really got to know a ton of the women that I know is through, we would do things together and we served together. Yeah. And there's something about that builds community. One of the reasons CrossFit is honestly crazy expensive. So crazy expensive, but all I can tell you is CrossFit my wife didn't like working out, and she went to CrossFit and was like, I like CrossFit because but I would say 90% of the reason why you get healthy, but it's so fun, the community. You get to know the same people, you get connected.
It's the only place that you can go work out where there's one person left working out and everyone's cheering you
Everyone's
on.
cheering. They're not judging you. They're actually helping you get through that thing. Yeah. And the other thing is the biggest, strongest guys are typically the ones that are the biggest cheerleaders. Yeah. They're not there to say, man, I did so fast and you're so slow. Yep. It's not like that. Yep. I mean, if they can breathe, because sometimes you're laying on the ground and you're all passed out. But no, the community. And then what's really fascinating is, and what's funny is that there were tons of articles when CrossFit was at its peak about saying CrossFit is the new church because it met the need for so many people for community. Yes. And it did things that many churches don't do, which is it didn't judge, which is there are churches that judge. There are churches that make statements about things, etc. And CrossFit just doesn't do that. Their agenda is, we want you to be physically healthy.
And like the church, there are people that used to walk into CrossFit and they go, well, I was going to XYZ CrossFit and I didn't really feel comfortable there. So there are good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah, for sure. And it could depend on the coaching. It depend on a lot of different things. But
in general, it's a very, very positive atmosphere.
Very positive atmosphere and very encouraging, and they all want you to move forward. And you have
shy people walking in like, this is my first day, I didn't really want to come, but I got this 5-day pass, and the next thing you know, they're like so into it, they're so involved, it's very,
and
very...
most CrossFits throw parties and stuff. They don't just but really, I'm getting off. I'm not trying to be a CrossFit guy, but what I really trying to say
is it is expensive though.
It is expensive. You're going to pay for it, but community is such a big part of us needing to live wholeheartedly. If we truly want to live wholeheartedly, you need people around you. And it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or extrovert, all of us need the people. So it's funny because, I've done many tests in the past. I haven't recently, but I've always ended up on introvert, but just like if there was a scale of 1 to 10 and introvert is 1 through 5, I'm like a 4. So it's not like I'm a 1. Yeah. But I'm a 4. Depending on my mood, I could be a 3. But that was really awkward as the lead pastor who would preach in front of people, in Ecuador, 300 people and multiple services and people coming in and you're constantly greeting. And then Patty can attest to the fact that I would go home and fall asleep for 4 hours. I mean, I was dead. I was totally dead. It was Whereas, you know, some people go home and they're energized. Hey, well, let's go do this. Let's go do that. And I'm like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
I mean, even like, I mean, not to get off on the whole introvert extrovert, but even like last Saturday we went to Stephanie's for your your little graduation party thing, and even just that, I was only there 3 hours, I think, and then. I mean, I was just taxed from laughing, playing with the games, chatting with people. It's like my mind just needed to like decompress and be, and then I'm fine. It doesn't take me days. It just, I need to be alone. I need to like be with my thoughts. And it happens a lot, even just after work. Like I don't listen to the radio on the way home. Peter will walk in. If he walks in too soon after me getting home, I don't want to talk that much. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I just don't, I'm in my own zone for a while. It's just very interesting. Why are you laughing?
Because I remember when I would, when we were first married, Patty, I think Patty's been becoming more introverted as she's grown, as she's gotten older, but she leans on the extrovert side. So she likes to be with people. Yeah. And I'll never forget when we would come home from work, and we were both working like retail type jobs, and we would both get home between 4:30 and 5:30 or something like that. And every once in a while she would come in right after me and start talking to me. Mm-hmm. And we had to finally come up with a rule. And I said, you can't talk to me for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, we could talk. But 30 minutes, I just need 30 minutes of nothing. And
well, you know what's funny is Peter for years used to go, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And for years it would whenever I would be in that quiet zone. Are you okay? I'm fine. And I think he's realized in the last 5 or 10 years that it's like, oh, she just needs that time. Yeah. Like she is okay. She just.
What's funny is, you know, I don't know. For me, it was just 100% random, because she would listen to me. She would just talk. And then I would just look at her, and I think she would be like, get upset because I'm not responding very well, or I would do certain things. And finally I was like, sweetheart, I need 30 minutes. I can't, just give me 30 minutes. Yeah. And then literally it was so funny. It was all first year marriage stuff. Sure, you know what I mean? Because later I don't even remember when it just faded away. Yeah. I can't remember. Do you remember the 30-minute thing though? Yeah. Because then I remember she'd come up and she'd go, it's been 30 minutes. and so then she just started, I mean, she was just waiting. Funny. She was just so waiting.
I could see Patty doing that. Yeah.
It's been 30 minutes. And then she'd just go, and I was fine. I was fine at that point, because I had my little, I had enough.
You had your time.
Yeah, I had my time, but it was so funny because it's been 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But yeah. So my whole thing today is, guys, we need people. There's a great verse. I think we talked about this one point, but confess your sins one to another so that you can be healed. And I think it's a very interesting verse, because you really, I mean, Catholics have an opinion of what that means for sure. And, you go to confessional and all that. Mm-hmm. But I think part of what's going on there is the sense that we need to be able to share things that are really going on in the depths of our hearts, and be able to talk to people and have that kind of community. Because if we don't, you end up burying it, and it causes a significant amount of pain. And honestly, you're not able to live wholeheartedly, right? Because you're carrying around a burden that you're not intended to carry alone. The other thing that's fascinating to me about the Bible, which you know this if you read Greek and Hebrew, but the English Bible, we don't have a word for, except for the people in the South, they say y'all. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They say y'all. So if you're talking to everybody, they go y'all, that's it. Mm-hmm. In English, we in normal English, quote unquote, we just say you. Mm-hmm. So if I'm
you all,
but if I'm talking to a crowd, I would say you, and I'm just, and they all know that I'm referring to all of them.
Yes,
you.
Yes.
But and so what's fascinating is, many times in the Bible, at least in the regular Bible, it's interesting because, the King James, which nobody likes to read, it has Old English, and it does, like the thou and those things, they are referring to a plural you. Right. But nobody understands that, so they just change that to a more common you. So what happens is, to most Americans, is they read that and hear me. They don't hear us. Right. Or we. And so all they do, and so I'll never forget, because I studied all that in college, so I knew all that. But it's easy when you're reading it every day in English to kind of forget it.
Sure.
And I knew it, and I would practice it and do whatever as much as I possibly could. But then when I had to start reading it in Spanish, it was like, oh my goodness, that's right. Because in Spanish you say ustedes, or you say, very few countries still say it, but people understand it, which is vosotros, which is like the it doesn't matter what it is, but it means a plural you. It means all of you. And it's fascinating how often somebody might interpret something as being, this is for you, but it's really for us.
Right.
And we really need to look at the world in a sense of us and we rather than me or I, because we're just not designed to live like that.
Right.
So you look at the animals, most animals, well, especially if you believe that we came from primates or whatever, regardless, but if you look at them, they're very communal.
Very communal.
Very communal. And the ones that aren't, it's because they've literally been ostracized and they're just waiting for them to die. So
no, they are very communal.
Very communal.
Yeah.
And so we're designed for that. We're meant to live in community. We're not meant to live alone. So we all need that. So
that's good.
That's my 2 cents.
Awesome. I love it. I'm glad I said the right answer too.
Oh, I am so glad you did too. Because if you went another direction, I would have been like, oh gosh.
All right, let's reel it in.
Yeah, how do I do this? What am I going to do now? So anyway, well, Iggy, before I forget, because we forgot on last podcast, thank you so much for keeping us in sound as usual. And
they don't see the nod, Ig.
Yeah, they don't know the nod.
Iggy Meister.
Sure.
So folks, oh, you can do that part because I've been talking.
You have been talking a lot.
Oh, shut up.
If you want to find us on Instagram, we are at wholehearted_living_podcast. And we are on Spotify as well as YouTube. And you can see us on YouTube.
That's right.
And
you can see your hair.
My hair is growing.
Yeah.
It is very gray.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, which is very interesting, you are so confident. And I go, oh, like I forgot about my gray hair. And she just randomly said that. And I go, oh, why, thank you. Like, I was like, what did she notice in me that is confident? And then she goes, no, seriously, you're walking around owning that hair. And I was like, oh.
I don't know. Is that a backhanded comment?
I don't know.
Compliment?
In my mind, I was like, oh, well, I like that you recognize that I seem confident, but exactly.
You're
but
also,
I was like,
it kind of is saying, like, I would never do that because that's the most horrible thing ever.
Yeah,
that's
some people wouldn't.
Like.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, you know what? This really is confidence, because I did finally just take off the hat and the spray, and it's like, you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, thank you guys for being here. And I think I summed everything up.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Ciao.